Welcome to these sessions of Skyscraper Latin America presentation. My name is Sergio Cecutta, and I am a partner at SMG Consulting. SMG Consulting is a consulting firm that specializes in different parts of aerospace and with an emphasis on urban air mobility. We have different areas of expertise: aerospace, defense, automotive. And we work with OEM, tier one suppliers, and aftermarket suppliers. One of the items that we started thinking about when it comes to urban air mobility in Latin America has been the side of the vehicles. If we look at the vehicles that right now are in development, with the emphasis being the ecosystem built by Uber, for an eventual service called Uber Air, but in this case it's Uber Elevate. We have these 8 different partners with 2 more unannounced for a total of 10 that are designing a vehicle with a 25 miles nominal mission. However, a vehicle capable of flying 60 miles with a cruise speed of 150 miles an hour and capable of being manned and caring for passengers, with the idea that at one point during the development, through safety equivalency, we will be able to have fully autonomous aircraft. On the right-hand side of the slide, you will see a Joby aircraft. And the majority of these vehicles are actually not being designed for a 60 miles mission, like, for example, in case of the Joby vehicle, the actual sizing, it's more like 150 miles. So when we look at these vehicles, one of the reasons for opening up this third dimension has always been congestion. And while in the world of the US, in Europe, in China, we see a significant amount of congestion. However, the problem of congestion is significantly worse in the emerging markets. So, for example, in this case, we are going to put our attention on the country of Colombia, and specifically the city of Bogota. In this case, you can see that the city with the worst traffic congestion, Bogota, it's there. That means that about 68% of the time, so let's call it 2/3 of the time, it's very high traffic congestion. And as far as traffic jam, as far as how many hours are spent by commuters in congestion, Bogota is actually the first in the world, and this is 2019 data, with 191 hours. So 191 hours, if we consider 24 hours a day, we're almost talking something in the order of a week that these folks spend stuck in traffic. So the idea is, can a third dimension be opened to make these cities more livable, change these cities? So in this case, we spoke about the fact that there is specific vehicles being developed right now. In all these vehicles, they're being developed with an eye towards the markets as we know it right now. It's being developed with an eye towards typical US cities or large suburban cities. And while we look at the topography, and most of the cities found in emerging markets, what we see is that actually is a vehicle that is has too much performance, and therefore is a vehicle that it might be too expensive or too expensive to operate. So what we have thought about with our company is, what if a vehicle was specifically designed for emerging market, in which the nominal mission becomes 4 to 6 miles instead of the 25 miles, in which the speed, it's not more 150 miles an hour, but 70, because in a smaller range, speed matters less. And a vehicle also that have a range up to 15 miles as opposed to the 60 or 150. Also, what about a solution where instead of the propulsion being fully electric becomes hybrid? Because in some of these emerging markets, it might be easier to have a mix of electricity with hybrid, with ICE, internal combustion engine, than instead having just a pure electric solution. Moreover, following a little bit the example of what Whisk is doing with Cora, what if we start certifying a local aviation regulation? Local aviation regulation that, while ensuring safety, might be not as stringent or not as complex as the one that we have in the United States with the FAA or in Europe with the EASA. Basically, what we're advocating is, what if you go and design a vehicle that takes a page from the automotive world? And in the automotive world, there is always a regionalization of the vehicle because different countries have different requirements. One of the famous example was, for example, when Ford brought the Taurus that in the 1980s to India. And the idea was, how do we defeature this car in order to put a price that is compatible with the market? And one of the things that they did, they went inside and they said, well, maybe instead of having 4 electric windows, why don't we leave the front windows to be electric only? Well, the car wasn't a success. And the issue was, it was an expensive car for the market. Moreover, the electric windows were up in the front where the driver was sitting, as opposed to where in the back where the principal was sitting. And this is why, because a US-centric mindset was applied to producing a vehicle that was the content for a specific emerging market. So why are we saying that this vehicle we're designing might not be suited to the topographies? If we look at the city of Los Angeles, in this case, we are only looking at a part of the Los Angeles metro area. There is another third of the Los Angeles metro area that would be in the top part of the slide. And there is another third of the metro area that would be in the bottom right of the slide. And so if we look at this 25-mile radius for an average nominal mission, you can see that with one stop, you can cover the entire metropolitan area from a point central, like in this case, the airport of LAX. If instead we go back to a regional vehicle with the 6-mile range, you can see that a 6-mile range, basically, it's not enough to even serve the downtown area of Los Angeles, much less going to other parts of the city. Now, let's instead turn back and look at the city of Bogota. These maps are the same zoom level. Now, if you look at the city of Bogota, if we were to have a 25-mile range for the nominal mission, you can see that this becomes a regional vehicle, no more a city vehicle. And so in this case, it would be an airplane that is over-designed. Now, one of the things that a lot of the proponents of this larger vehicle with more range, they say, well, but if you have a vehicle that has a longer range, you're basically oversized, but that means you need to charge less. However, we also have to understand that, again, in aviation, the larger the vehicle, the heavier the vehicle, the more complex it becomes. So now instead, let's place in one of the main squares of the city of Bogota our vertiport. And now we begin to see that when we have something like our 6-mile radius, we begin to, in 2 hops, cover the majority of the city. And therefore, something that is more regional, as opposed to something that instead is taken from the vehicle we'll develop in the United States, might be better suited for this type of seating. However, many questions remain when it comes to a regional AAM vehicle. For example, the average cost to bring a vehicle to certification has been discussed between $800 and $1.5 billion. So between 800 million and 1.5 billion. So it would be extremely expensive to develop variation for specific regional markets. However, we also need to think about the fact that while the aviation world, it's really a global market if we look at a commercial airliner, because if you're serving, 2 cities in Latin America with an A320, it's really not that different than serving 2 major cities in the United States or in Europe or in China. However, in this market, we're going down to a market in which each city as specific characteristics that make it different. And while we're not advocating the fact that you might be able to build a vehicle for a specific city, at the same time, maybe we need to start thinking about different vehicle for different type of geographies or market. The other question is, when it comes to emerging market, the price sensitivity is higher than what it would be in an existing market like the US. So in this case, would the operating cost of this vehicle be low enough to make the service affordable? Uber is starting to float this figure of $6 per passenger mile at the beginning of their service in 2023, with the understanding that this cost will go down to become compatible or comparable with UberX, and then one day even car ownership. However, this requires fleets of tens of thousands and utilization that is beyond this VFR piloted vehicle that we're thinking about right now. So if we were to design a regional vehicle, the regional vehicle would be low cost enough for operation to make the service affordable, where even here now $6 a mile might not be affordable. However, there is also the other side of the coin, where in these markets, you are also talking about smaller distances. So a 6-mile flight for $36, while still might be a little expensive, it's different than a 25-mile flight at $6 a mile. The other piece, we need infrastructure. The entire urban air mobility industry is built a little bit like the EV industry. It doesn't make sense to buy an electric car if there is no electric infrastructure. The success of Tesla, it is part in the vehicle, but really the core of the success is in this enormous network of chargers that considerably, that combined with the battery range, take the whole idea of range anxiety away. So in this case, it's the same thing. We need an infrastructure from the actual vertiports to ATC, to where to store the fuel, where to how to get the passengers there, how to blend it with the rest of the city. And so in this case, is the infrastructure feasible? Is it feasible to build these vertiports? Can these vertiports be, for example, co-locating with bus terminals? That is a very popular form of transportation in Latin America, or can they be located on major roads so that we get two birds with one stone by also reducing the amount of noise? Moreover, can we make the service affordable enough that it reaches enough customers to become economically scalable? We know that all of these services in the air mobility world really are meant for a certain time where thousands of vehicles are operating at once in a specific city, while at the very beginning is always very expensive. And so the whole idea of the business plan, the investment, is to understand, can we have enough customers, enough airplanes in this market to make it economically scalable, reduce the pricing. Last but not least, ATC and ATC systems need to be capable of managing these high densities for the urban environment. So right now, the ATC, while we're talking about private ATC, they merge with the ATC of the country and the major airport, we're still talking a level of capability that it is not familiar in some of these markets. And so there is a lot of these works that need to be done in advance. So the whole idea behind a regional vehicle is, yes, the vehicle is just one of the pieces of the puzzle in order to make urban air mobility and advanced air mobility a success in Latin America. Not only that, we're also concentrating on manned vehicle with passengers, as opposed to what will be probably the use case that we will develop quicker, that is cargo deliveries and drone deliveries. Even if they might not be drone deliveries to your door, it will be drone deliveries between major warehouses to speed up the logistics. So we are thinking would there be a need for a specific vehicle, or at the very least for tailoring the vehicle to the specific needs of developing markets? We hope that this has been provocative train of thoughts for us to continue to look and keep an open mind when it comes to this, because for the first time in aerospace, we're actually given the opportunity to design vehicles specifically for markets, as opposed to what we've done in aviation until now, where we design a vehicle that serves all the markets and multiple markets, because these vehicles are so expensive to develop. I mean, today an airliner, it's going to cost us 10 to 20 billion to certify. So is the future of advanced air mobility going to be cloudy and fraught with issues like the left-hand side of this final slide? Or is it going to be blue skies flying and like the right-hand side? If you are interested in knowing more, please do contact us on our email or on our social media on LinkedIn and on Twitter. We thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you, and we look forward in talking to you the next time.